Hi all, I have another fascinating and insightful game of Magnus Carlsen to show you from the World Blitz Championship 2019. So Magnus was playing against Dmitry Jakovenko. So we have c4 from Magnus, the English opening, and black plays a symmetrical variation, so everything is symmetrical so far. Queen d2, this protects the knight and actually means b3 can be played, bishop b2. This is an alternative plan to playing a3, which weakens light squares and it seems to be a bit slower. a3 was played in the high level game Nakamura against Caruana in Zurich 2015, and actually it featured a combination of a3 and queen d2 and b3. So this is interesting to play just queen d2 on its own, protecting the knight and preparing to challenge this dark square bishop. There's less light squares weakened. Queen d7 carrying on the symmetry, and the symmetry carries on here by both sides. Knight d5. Black here breaks the symmetry and plays bishop takes b2. And you might wonder, how far can this be pushed? If knight d4, which is another symmetrical move, e3, e6, knight f4, let's say knight f5, g4, g5, white would have g takes, and then taking here, and then taking here with a big advantage. The thing is, if queen takes h1, we can actually protect that knight, and that bishop is going to do the damage, winning material there. So that's absolutely winning for white. And if we look at this, instead, if bishop takes b2, then that would leave that rook being looked at by the queen. So this is very unpleasant, this position. In fact, here white is best to castle to protect the knight and can get an advantage of it after queen takes h7. So in all variations it does seem to be an advantage for white if black persists in doing the symmetry. Let's have a quick look, just one more moment. So e6, if knight e6 here, then white can just castle, and this is just very pleasant for white, for example. And here, if knight f4, if bishop takes g2 in this line, then knight takes g2, then g4 here, and yes, this bishop being hanging and this loose piece after, if the bishop took, is unfortunate for black, so that's absolutely winning for black there. Okay, so yes, the symmetry had to stop, it seems. Bishop takes b2, queen takes b2, e5. Now white seems to have very comfortable pressure on dark squares here, and actually is quite relentless now on the dark square play. f4, black castles queenside. Yeah, it seems as though this is becoming a necessary evil. An unfortunate move would be knight e7, because then, I hope you can guess, or see it rather, knight f6 check would be forking king and queen. So it's, yes, unpleasant holes on the dark squares. So black castles queenside, knight f3, f6, trying to shore up the e5 pawn. White castles kingside. So far from being symmetrical now, white seems to have a pleasant space advantage. The possibility of b4 later. Knight c e7. If knight d4 here, then b4. That kind of weakens control of b4 to play that move. And this position is just very, very nice for white. For example, like this. White is looking forward to a great attack and material winning, stuff like that. So knight c e7 was played. We have e4. Knight takes d5. And you might think, well, this looks a bit bad, doesn't it? Cementing in the bishop. It is bad, but there aren't too many great options here after knight d5. If that knight is tolerated on d5, then f takes, for example, and there's a nice tactic here. Can you spot it? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, what would you play here? Okay, loose rooks tend to fall off, or loose pieces generally, so there's this tactic to win that rook there. So after e4, knight takes d5, e takes, white has a nice positional advantage. C takes is also plausible. For example, this position looks rather good for white. White is really in the driving seat here in these lines, with potentially dangerous attack on the B file in this particular variation, showing devastation. So yeah, it seems as though it's very critical for black already if white has two very pleasant choices. Knight e7, f takes, d takes, knight d2, and so yeah, pressure on f6 now, that's unveiled. Looking at f6, that's protected. Again, hitting f6, that's protected again with the awkward knight g8. The pressure is mounting here. If f5, then white can of course play this to go into that lovely e6 square, or even worse, it seems technically, to take on h7, then do something like that, winning the exchange. So yeah, it's all pretty unpleasant there. And in this position, you know, what else? Yeah, it's just really unpleasant. So knight g8, b4, a really fantastic position to have with the white pieces. C takes, queen takes, f5. Now in desperation, knight g5. The e5 pawn has been compromised. It is just sitting there as a big target now on the e file. Black offers the exchange of queens. It's really unpleasant anyway. So yep. Now rook a e1, and it's very difficult to defend e5. If rook e8, for example, then white could just pounce in with tempo, knight f7, hitting the rook, and e5. So very, very nasty now. So h6 was played. Knight e6, and yes, white is collecting a big center pawn with no compensation, it seems, for black. Knight f6, rook fe1, piling on the pressure now. Knight f4, rook takes, complete control over the position. Knight g4, check, and now d4. These pawns have great mobility potentially. And now after g5, just ignoring that, hitting the rook. And now knight g6. And here rook f8. So that rook was hit, but countering on that knight. Allowing black, it seems, knight takes d5. That's fine. White had that under control. If the knight goes back, then d6 is nasty. For example, this position, black could get checkmated like that, for example. It's all pretty nasty after that. So knight takes d5 is losing anyway. Knight e5 is winning material here. The game ended here. So if, say, the rook moved, then bishop takes d5. So Magnus made this game look easy. It was just a blitz game, so opponents are going to be less accurate and disasters can happen much more easily in blitz. But I think that's what makes them often more entertaining than the longer time control games. For me, I mean, as a blitz enthusiast online, I think there's an interesting idea to pick up here of queen d2 in this. This is an alternative to the classic wet lettuce plan, what I call wet lettuce a3, rook b1, b4, protecting the knight, and then you can quickly challenge black's fianchetto. I think it's a cool idea to put in one's toolkit. I hope you might try it in one of your own games and tell me how it goes, this idea in the English opening. So the symmetrical, you know, sometimes people are put off playing the English because of the symmetrical, but here, yeah, the symmetry could only go so far. I hope you got something from it. If you want to play me, check out the bit.ly link at Chessworld. I'm playing hundreds of you already. I don't mind playing hundreds more. So it's 5 days a move. Check that out. Leela videos. Also, there's the bit.ly link, Leela Chess. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks very much.